Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this month's Tuesday, February 12th instead of Thursday, Planning Board session. We have 3 applications before us tonight, 2 preliminary final and 1 sketch. We will listen to the applicant. We'll have questions from the board and then open it to the public. Following the public hearings, we will deliberate in the back of the auditorium all matters before us. Should you have any questions, please contact the planning office. Katie?
Application number 1, Jonathan Morris, AIA, Carmina Woods Morris, PC, 487 Main Street, Suite 600, Buffalo, New York, 14203. On behalf of Vision Dodge Chrysler Jeep, requests under Articles 9-9-2 and 10-10-2 of the Code Preliminary and Final Site Plan and Conditional Use Permit to allow the demolition of 2,000 square feet showroom and the reconstruction of a 6,640 square foot showroom with additional site improvements and an expansion to a conditional use permit on 6.53 acres, located at 920 Panorama Trail South, to be known as the Vision Dodge Chrysler Jeep. The property is now or formerly owned by Gary Signolfi and is zoned general business and limited industrial. Application number 13P-0005, SBL number 139.09-1-60.21.
Thank you. As Katie said, I'm Jonathan Morris. I'm principal with Carmina Wood Morris in Buffalo. We've been working on this project for quite a while. We were here in 2008 when the then owners of the Vision Automotive Group was looking to expand their facility. The Chrysler Corporation was asking all of their dealerships, as part of their dealerships agreement, to expand and upgrade all of their facilities to meet a consistent look that they wanted to impart on all of their dealerships across the country. We came to you at that point with the plans to take down the existing showroom, which is right in here, and expand and build a brand new showroom. Those are the plans that we submitted back in 2008. We went through a number of iterations of that with the planning board at the time. Chrysler went bankrupt in 2009, 2010, and that all the funding was pulled from those projects and everything sort of ground to a halt. Last year, with Chrysler back on its feet, they came back to their dealers and said, we need to reinstitute this program and we want you to go forward with this project. So at that point, we submitted back to Penfield again. At where we were in 2008 and where we picked up last in 2012 was we had plans generally acceptable to the planning board and with the planning board's consultant, Roger Johansson, who we've been working with. But we uncovered in the process a restriction on the property that was placed on the property by the zoning board, first in 1984 and then again in 1995. When those plans were approved originally to build this building, there was a restrictive covenant put on the property by the zoning board that said the facility shall never be expanded. So we sort of ran into that roadblock, and that's where we picked up. We resubmitted the plans, and we met with members of the planning department and zoning department to review those plans and talk about this restrictive covenant and the likelihood of getting that lifted. We are on the agenda for zoning board on the 21st of this month to talk about that. But in the meantime, we put our heads together and with the owners of the dealership and said maybe there's a different way to do this, that we can meet what Chrysler is asking for without necessarily expanding the facilities. And we sort of went back to the drawing board and came up with a solution which I came and talked to Katie about, and we resubmitted some drawings to you this past week that changed the original plans that we had submitted and scaled back the scope of what we were doing and looked at reconfiguring internally the building footprint to find additional showroom space. We're accomplishing that by a couple different ways internal to the building, moving administrative offices out of that building and consolidating all the administrative offices off-site. The owners of the dealership own a couple different automotive dealerships. So they're consolidating their office functions. We're doing this with a number of different dealers to remove that large chunk of the program, which was administrative space. So we can pare down what's actually housed in the building to the service bays, the service write-up area, the showroom, and parts storage. So those three components. And the plans that we supplemented to you last week show a different configuration for that that we've brought here tonight to talk about. That shows the current showroom building remaining in place, but doing an exterior facelift and an interior remodel and not expand the footprint of the building. The only change then to the site plan would be, is this working too? I don't know if I can. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. There is a change right here. There's a current concrete island with a flagpole on it that we want to take out and reconfigure this island to, right now there's 5 parking spaces along this side of the building. We want to increase that to 8 and dedicate those for service customers. So people coming in to get their cars serviced, coming in off of Panorama Trail. There's a service sign here, and these 8 dedicated spots are for those folks to come in and park and walk into a new service entrance, so that part of the problem with the site circulation now, vehicular circulation, is service drive is back in here and it conflicts with other vehicular circulation on the site. So we're trying to pull that service component up front so those folks can park here and go directly into the building. They'll have people from the shop come out and take those cars and jockey those back and queue them up back here for service parking, or take them into the garage into the service bays. So the change that we're talking about is changing that island and reconfiguring this area of parking. The facade, the 3D model renderings that we gave you showed what we were talking about doing on the outside of the building. I'll flip this over. This, the pictures at the top here, the view 1 and 2, show what we're proposing to do on the outside of the building. There's a standing seam mansard roof around this building that dates back to 1984. The idea is to upgrade this facility. Chrysler's look that they want all of their dealerships to have is for this horizontal signboard and what they're calling their Millennial Arch, which is an entrance, a center entrance into the showroom. And I'm sure you've seen this. I think there's another dealership over in Henrietta that has done this similar thing. It's a standard look that all Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealerships are trying to standardize. So our plan is to take off the existing fascia, replace it with this new fascia, put the arch out front, right up against the current front wall of the building, and then where there's a current outdoor display area next to the showroom, this area right here is a current outdoor concrete pad. What we're proposing is to extend that fascia out as a freestanding structure out around that outdoor pad to allow for this, the proportions of this new fascia to meet Chrysler's requirements without actually expanding the facility, but giving us an opportunity to have the signs on the fascia. That's another issue we got to talk about with zoning to get approval to put those signs on the building, and then build this center arch so that the new look of the dealership would be as you see in the renderings we showed you. So that's what we're here to present. It's different from what Katie read, and that we're no longer planning to take down the existing showroom and build this new showroom, which was about 2.5 times the size of what's there. That new showroom complied with all the zoning setbacks and everything else, but it went against, it challenged that restrictive covenant to expand the facilities. So we're proposing this as an alternative and meeting the requirements programmatically that Chrysler is asking for by reconfiguring inside the building. If you have any questions, I'm here to respond. And we have Dan Edwards, who's the current owner of Vision Automotive, here as well, if you need to address any questions to him.
Okay, yes, I have a few questions. To start with, how long have the 4 brands been part of the site?
Since 2010, 2008. That,
Could you come, excuse me, could you come up?
Oh, sure. We bought Chrysler Jeep garage in
2008.
2000. Gary Siganowski had opened it maybe in 1980s.
1984 was when the original building opened, but
Okay. According to aerial photos, the site has 258 parking spaces. Your site plan shows 206 parking spaces. How are you going to accommodate these brands with 52 fewer spaces?
We're renting an off-site location right now up in East Rochester, and that's where we're taking all of our overflow inventory.
Could you, how many vehicles are at that off-site
I
location?
think we have the capacity to hold 75 there.
75? Okay. Let's see, there. Deliveries, are they made randomly or are they made on a set schedule? The car deliveries?
They're made randomly. You mean
Randomly?
The new vehicle deliveries?
Yeah,
Randomly.
okay. And one issue that we talked about back in 2008 when you were first here, I think, is the fire lane around the building.
Correct,
With,
yeah.
with the new proposal, how can we be assured the fire lane's going to be kept clear and open?
well, there was a number of questions and concerns that were sent to us that we have addressed in the latest submission back to you. That fire lane, the fire marshal had asked that we mark that with striping and add signage on the site that to restrict parking in this area up here and alongside the building, and to clearly mark that fire lane as to be kept clear at all times. So we've added that to the site plan, those markings.
Okay. That's all I have.
Is there anyone else on the board has questions?
I'd just like to touch on what Bill just said. We discussed this in our workshop 2 weeks ago. It doesn't appear that this is an issue with patrons. It appears to be an issue with bottlenecking in the service. People come in, they drop off their cars, they're being serviced as they're done. The service technicians bring them outside, and that area just gets bottlenecked. And we've been witness to this, and your willingness to put up signage and stripe or delineate the fire lanes is really good. We were hoping that you might maybe create a policy and put some signage interior to the service areas so the people that are, coming out to take a car that's been serviced and try to find a place for it, won't get bottlenecked in that regard. And
That's exactly the problem right now. And when customers are coming in, that's why we're trying to designate these first spots for when they pull in. We're going to have porters that immediately it's entering customers into that spot, exiting customers out the side of the building with a porter handing them the keys when they pull them up and exiting.
so you're proposing to solve the problem with manpower. So somebody
Correct.
will be responsible for
Correct.
Actually valeting the vehicles.
In and out,
In and out.
yes.
And that's
Thank you very much.
This area along here we designated for that traffic in and out for those.
Thank you.
Quick question. Do you have that on any other site that you operate on?
This is our tightest site because we're landlocked behind and with a hill going, and I don't know which direction. I'm not good at
Lots of hills.
south, I guess it would be here.
Hills.
So most of our other stores, we have property that we've been able to either purchase or, utilize and grow from one side to the other. So that's the challenge here with trying to increase the size of the facility. It was taking additional parking spots off the property, which is the greatest thing that we need for the customer service vehicles.
You got lots of land here.
We do,
So
if we had canoes.
Uphill.
I've got one question. I think you mentioned you're going to see the zoning board
Yes.
in the next couple weeks. So that leaves open the possibility of expanding. Rather than this site plan, you might come back with another
The only,
plan?
the only expansion that we might consider doing, and we're still, part of this, we've got to address the town of Penfield's concerns, we've got to address the owner's concerns, and we also have to address Chrysler and what they're asking for. And the conversations we've had with Chrysler are whether or not they will count that outdoor parking space as part of the showroom, or whether that needs to be, they would like to see that enclosed. We've told them we can't expand the facility. If that got lifted by the zoning board, the only thing we would propose doing would be to, instead of just having that as a freestanding fascia, put some walls around that and make that outdoor pad part of the showroom, and that would get us up to closer to the target square footage that Chrysler Corporation wants to see as a showroom area. But no, we're not going to take down the current showroom and build the old scheme. We're going to work with the existing building. We would, if need be, we will expand that one bay, but we can't do that until we have that restriction lifted by zoning.
Okay, thank you.
But the basic look of the building would be as you see it here. It's just there'd be curtain wall around that outside space instead of just being open air.
Can you explain a little bit more about the service area and what it's going to look like? Because first of all, if you've got a lot of returning customers, they're all used to going in the back. So how are we going to attract them to go to where you want them to go to? And most service areas that I'm familiar with are not the most attractive part of the building. So how are you proposing to make that, match that up with your beautiful entryway and pull it off, if you will?
Well, what we're proposing is as you drive in the driveway, the service sign will be right here, and we'll have these parking areas designated, and there maybe even be some pavement parking or whatever to keep people from driving back this way. If we need to do more to barricade that, I don't know, we might be able to address that. But the idea is that if we can sign that and make it clear as you come in, that you come in and turn to the left, and this is where the service entry is right there. Right now, it's back around the back side of the building, back in here. So if we can sign this and create that new service entrance right there and make it clear that that's where you go, just inside that door, we're taking a part of what is now the parts department and making a new service write-up area. So you come into that new area, the service technicians are there at 3 different workstations. Go to any one of those technicians to write up your service order, and from there you go through another door directly into the showroom, and the customer lounge is now in the showroom area. So it's all one path of travel and very little transition from service right into the showroom. And there's no, right now you go back into the garage and wander down through a hallway and back around. It's awkward, and it's not very welcoming. So that's again part of what Chrysler's looking for, is to have service right up adjacent to the showroom so that customer flow works in that sequence. And that's what we've done but it's all internal to the building.
Will that service intake area be glassed in, or will it be solid?
It's behind an existing wall that we've opened up with new windows, so the service techs can see out to those people entering.
Okay.
If that area, that outdoor area, gets enclosed, those windows will look out into the showroom, and through the glass wall they'll be able to see the people driving up for service.
Okay. Thanks.
How many How many vehicles do you service a day currently?
We service between 35 and 70, depending on the given day.
That's a big range.
A huge range.
What's your biggest day?
Typically Monday and Saturdays is becoming a big day. Obviously, that's when most people are not working on Saturdays, but Monday can be very busy as well if there was any problems with the vehicles over the weekends.
So, question for your architect, the planning for this multi-purpose surface lot, was it laid out with the worst-case scenario in mind? And do the improvements you intend to make, are you hoping that they'll increase the number of vehicles that you service?
We're hoping it'll increase or make the flow better for the customer. And actually, John's the architect who brought the idea to me with service in the front. And I don't know why we haven't thought about this all the years we were there, because our customers, you were saying, drive to the back of the building. And John said, Dan, when he looked at a Saturn facility, he said, boy, it's pretty inviting. You pull right up and you see service entrance and you know where you're going. And I said, well, if you can make that work. And he said, what do you think about this idea? And when he walked me through it, I went, huh, that's why he's the architect. So I think from a customer-friendly standpoint, it'll be much easier, because all we have to really do is focus on keeping those 8 spots cleared for the next 8 customers coming in. They won't see what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, that's going to be handled with all of our people, shuttling the cars back, taking them in, getting them repaired, bringing them back up, getting them cleaned, and then handing them the keys and letting them leave. So I think it's going to make it much easier for the customers coming in.
Yeah. Do you have a contingency plan for the days when you're servicing 70, 75 vehicles and a lot of the people can't come and pick up their repaired vehicle until the end of the day?
The other thing, we have the ability to take more cars off-site. So as we continue to grow, and as the Vision Group, we continue to sell more and more vehicles every year, and we have free lifetime oil changes. So there's more people that constantly come into the pyramid, if you will. So in the future, we might have to take more cars off-site and designate more areas for customer parking when we shuttle them internally to the other spots. So we might have to increase the, outside storage.
I think the other, in my mind, and we're still working this through, but in those really heavy days, if there's more than 8 people coming to pick their cars up at once, there are also some spaces over on this side, right adjacent to the showroom, that we can use that are there as delivery spaces for new cars. But I think those could also double as service pickup too, because the customer lounge is right in here, right in the back of the showroom. So when the customer is called to come pick up their car, go to the cashier and pay, and if that porter is there with their keys, they can take them on either side of the building. And if there's 8 spots here and another 5 spots here, we can get as many as 13 people picking up cars and moving out, and other ones coming in. So I think that would be the other contingency in my mind, too. We could double those spaces.
Thank you.
Does the staff have a designated area for parking?
They do.
Yeah, back here.
Now, did you ever think about having them park off-site and shuttle?
We do that at our Nissan store in Webster, and it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. So we can try to go there. It's actually easier to take inventory off-site and have our salespeople take a customer off-site to see a different color vehicle than it is having our employees that come in at all different times, all staggered schedules, and trying to wait on 1 or 2 shuttle people to bring them back and forth.
Well, it sounds like on your busy day, that shuttle is going to be making a lot of circles to the service cars.
We have,
same way.
and I don't know if John mentioned, we have 45 spots just designated for customer parking, but we were going to take the customers' cars from those 8 into those spots.
No,
So,
I
we have
understand.
plenty of parking for customers, unless all 70 happen to come in at the exact
Well,
same time.
I think you're absolutely right that your service customers are the ones that are bottling up the flow. I mean, because it's a come and go, come and go, come and go,
Correct.
so. And depending on the amount of traffic that you have and the number of customers that you have, I mean, just
Yes.
this presents a challenge. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone in the audience? Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Application number 2, Edwin Summerhays, LS, 2509 Browncroft Boulevard, Suite 209, Rochester, New York, 14625, on behalf of Richard A. Samuel. Request under Articles 8-8-2 and 9-9-2 of the Code preliminary and final subdivision and site plan approval to allow the division of one 30.2 acre lot into 3 lots with existing structures to remain placed on Lot 1, a proposed single-family residence on Lot 2, and Lot 3 is to remain vacant at this time, located at 1698 Kennedy Road, to be known as 1698 Kennedy Road. The property is now or formerly owned by Richard A. Samuel and is zoned RA2. Application number 13P-0007, SBL number 111.01-1-7.
Good evening. I'm Ed Summerhays. I'm here on behalf of my client, Richard Samuel. And once again, Katie has introduced my project for me, so there's nothing left for me to say other than to reiterate it is an existing, Richard owns a 30-acre parcel. And if you look at the drawing on over my left shoulder, what I've tried to do is highlight in green the area of that parcel. It's by at least our Monroe County GIS, all wetlands. So the back portion of this parcel is not likely to ever be expanded. And Richard would like he'd like to eventually build on Lot 3, which is vacant for this application, and his parents would like to build on Lot 2. The drawing on my right is the layout that they would like, their house configuration, and what they would like to do. And Lot 1 would be separated from the rest of the remaining land. That would remain a 5.1 acre parcel with the existing structures on it. So that's really it in a nutshell. I have received the PRC comments, which I responded to in a letter to the planning department about a week ago. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to read that or if you'd like me to go over that, or we can move things along. And I don't know if there's anybody from the public to have any questions on this.
Yeah, why don't you hit on a couple of the highlights of the PRC comments, if you would, please.
All right, I'll need my glasses for that one. Comment 1, the applicant is encouraged to apply for a waiver for the sidewalk policy. We have, it's shown on the plans, we do have a sidewalk easement that we're dedicating to the town, and I have submitted a letter for the waiver to construct a sidewalk. Comment number 2 is to show the location of the existing septic tank or the septic system on the Lot 1, the house lot. I don't know where it is at this time, but I'll investigate that and add that to the plans. Comment number 3 is to provide a 30-foot drainage easement over all the drainage ditches in the back, and I did not highlight them here and here. There are a couple of ditches that the town uses. I'm thinking one of them might even be the commission ditch or a portion of it. And I have submitted descriptions and sketches to go with those descriptions for those easements. So we're going to be accommodating that. Comment number 4, a 30-foot access or 30-foot wide access to the rear property will preclude any future development for a future 60-foot right-of-way. And actually, we thought about that quite a bit, and there's a number of factors that we've taken into consideration that discouraged us from trying to keep that a 60-foot wide parcel. First of all, because of the wetlands in the back, the area between the wetlands and the rear line of proposed Lot 2 only encompasses approximately 4 acres. So if we tried to put a 60-foot wide access in there, you'd only be servicing 2 lots. So it's going to prohibit a dedicated road. The most we would have in there would be a private drive. So that was one reason. The other reason is about 250 feet off the road, and on the drawing on the right, you'll see a big green splotch that goes horizontally across the lot, and that's a row of mature spruce trees. And we don't really want to destroy those or construct in them. And if we made it a 60-foot wide access to the going to the rear of the parcel, it's going to narrow up Lot 2. And if we narrow Lot 2 up, what we'd end up with is a leach field, which would be standard, a leach field in the front yard with the house constructed behind that. And that would, with the narrow lot, it would put that house back into the pine trees, which we would have to take out pine trees to do that. So we don't think that's a desirable thing to do. Not to mention my client, Christine Peters, or the son, or the daughter, I mean the mother of Richard, she is very much into her landscaping. She's already spent thousands of dollars on shrubs and plants to bring in there, and she's been already trying to get some of those in the ground and planted. So she's definitely not one to be taking out trees, and she wants to enhance the trees with the landscaping she's doing. So that's why we're keeping it at a 30-foot access rather than a 60-foot access. Comment number 5, an ingress. An ingress easement should detail the future maintenance of the maintenance and responsibility for the private drive. I've added a note to the plan, or added to general note number 15, which talks about the driveway detail on sheet 2. And I've added to that the owners of Lot 2 and 3 shall be required to prepare or adopt a driveway agreement plan. They can be very complicated. The ones I've read, is for who's taking care of what percentage of the maintenance and this and that. So I definitely don't want to get in the habit of putting on my site plans what the agreements would be, other than to just make the comment that there shall be one created. And even though they are going to be family, I'm sure that they will, when the conveyance is made, that driveway agreement plan can be put in place. Number 6, and this is a great question. I love it. The side lot layout is a bit awkward and will be difficult to implement in the field. And if I can step away from the podium here, what you're talking about is this jog here. My zoning requirement is to have a 200-foot width, minimum width on Lot 1. But because we want to keep all our improvements in front of the pine trees, we're developing across the width of the lot rather than across the depth of the lot. And so I need as wide a lot as possible to accommodate the leach fields and the house. And yet I also needed to maintain my 200-foot frontage. So what I did is I maintained the 200-foot frontage for the lot width of Lot 1, which is the house lot, to a point that's behind the house, and then jogged it over. And this allows us to have the room to get the house in there, the leach field in there, and also I have a drainage swale so that my front yard drainage can drain around there and get back to the back portion of the property. So that's why that is there. But you'll also notice that I now have a dotted line there, or a dashed line there, at least on my drawing up here. The other day I went in and I talked to Harold to see, exactly what does the code say, because perhaps if we want to eliminate a 90-degree bend, if I carried that 200-foot width to, say, the front building line of the existing house, and then went over on a triangle, that would make Rich's mother very happy, because she would get a little bit more land. She was a little disappointed that I had to take that land from her. So we could modify this plan and put a little triangular or a slope in there, a little right triangle that would maybe not make it quite so awkward and still accommodate or match the zoning requirement. And the applicant should consider keeping 7 acres so they can keep their ag exemption. I talked to the assessor on that to find out what the requirements to maintain that ag exemption was. And not only did they need 7+ acres, 7 acres not including any portion of the house, they also needed to continue farming it, and that's not their intention at this time. So even if they had 7 acres, they were not going to be farming this, and so they would lose that exemption anyway. So those are the comments that I believe I responded to, and hopefully clarified any questions.
Yeah, and I just got a couple questions. So with the 3 lots there, hopefully it's all going to stay in the family?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
intention?
Yes.
Now, where's the driveway going to go between the lots? How's that going to, if you could just show?
Oh, yeah. Again, the room issue, the dark shaded area for the driveway that's going to access the house on Lot 2 is going to be constructed on the 30-foot access easement that is also going to be the access for Lot 3. The reason for that is sometime in the future, Rich's desire is to construct a house somewhere in that, which is also why we have this lot configuration. He wants to stay close to the road and keep a shorter driveway, so that this driveway, when he builds, will just continue on. So that's why the driveway is positioned where it is.
Okay, and you're not going to have any problems with the wetlands in the back there?
We're not going to be anywhere near the wetlands, no. His on the larger scale, would his house, the way they're talking to me now, would be somewhere in that vicinity there.
And do you believe, now, you said you're not going to have to get any type of zoning
No.
changes, even the way it's set up right now?
Everything conforms to zoning, yes.
And the Conservation Board, I know they had some recommendations.
I have not seen anything come from the Conservation Board yet.
I think there's some in there. I don't think,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think they're anything major, but you might want to take a look at those. And we're all set with the sidewalk, the waiver. I think that's it for me. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
As far as you know, is your concern, there's no intention of having a landscaping business out there, because that's what it looks like. Looks like somebody's trying to start a
Oh, no,
landscaping business.
this is
That's all
Christine
her
Peter. That
collection
is,
of
yes,
love.
that is her love of the plants, and her idea is to have all those plants planted and growing before she even gets to the, I said, you might want to wait until no, I gotta, so you can see where I've highlighted in green when I was doing the topographic work around the area. I've located her little berms where she's going to have all these plants growing. So she might not be there yet, but this spring she will be there.
Any other questions from the board? Is there anyone in the audience? No, thanks, Ed.
All right, thanks.
Application number 3, Randy Bebat, T.Y. Lin International, 255 East Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14604, on behalf of Hess Corporation. Requests an informal discussion with the board regarding the construction of a drive-through lane and window at the existing Hess facility on 1.78 acres located at 2180 Penfield Road, to be known as 2180 Penfield Road. The property is now or formerly owned by Hess Realty Corporation and is zoned GB and TF. Application number 13P-0008, SPL number 140.01-1-4.
Before you get started, Mr. Chairman, I'll be recusing myself from this hearing.
Mr. Bird. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jerry Goldman. I'm the attorney and agent for Hess Corporation. With me tonight on the application is Andy Lautenberger, who's the permit manager for Hess, sitting in the front row, as well as Randy Bebout, who's a project engineer from T.Y. Lin International, the project engineers. I have the handheld microphone because I'm going to be referring and going to the site very often and discussing at least the introduction of the site itself. The subject site currently has a Hess location on it. It's on the northeast corner of Penfield Road and 9 Mile Point Road, routes 441 and 250. The Hess has been there for a substantial period of time, and what is contemplated is an improving of the site and some changes. However, much of it's remaining the same. The site is a relatively large site for a gas station and convenience type facility. It's 1.787 acres. Very often we deal with sites that are between 1 and 1.5 acres for this type of use. As a result of that, we have a very generous green space situation going on with regard to the site. Our proposal at full development would have us at 38.78% of green space on the site, which is a very generous amount of green space for this type of operation. Much of the facilities on the site will remain the same. The existing Hess Express building, which is located at the rear of the site, angled to the corner, is 3,514 square feet. That building will remain exactly the same in terms of its size. The existing gas pump canopy and pumps underneath it will remain the same on the particular site. The major site change and site improvement is the proposed construction of a drive-through lane to traverse around the building on this particular site. We've gone through a number of iterations on the site plan to help refine it to make this the most effective traffic circulation pattern possible. This particular site does have a substantial amount of queuing space for cars. It's approximately 8 cars located between the parking spaces to the menu board, but there's also an ability to accommodate additional cars, if necessary, coming in both directions, dealing with both intersections. Our proposal also contemplates providing some good directional information for people who are coming onto the site. For those who are looking to come into the drive-through, there will be a sign as you enter on Route 250, which directs people to come in through the drive-through, traverse around the outside of the gas pumps, and to come in this direction to allow them to then go into the drive-through. The same as we come off of 441, we come in through a lane which is marked for drive-through over here and allow people to come in onto the site. We have every desire and every interest in keeping the same type of use. We know that there are a lot of people that park along the frontage, along the curb line over here. We're not doing anything to impinge on their ability to do that. There's a substantial amount of space between the curb and the canopy, which would allow cars, and we may actually stripe along here to help delineate better so that people actually, since they're using it anyway, so that they should know that they should come as close as possible to that curbing. We still have room to allow people to come through on the outside of that to queue in if they want to for the drive-through itself. Drive-through has some interesting elements, some of which were suggested by town staff and incorporated into the plan. There is a mountable curb in this area, which allows for snow storage to be pushed off the site, but also allows people to be able to access the bypass lane, which comes around the site. There's a bypass which is there. The cars that come through the drive-through come here. There is a sidewalk area which is indicated here, a sidewalk area which is indicated along our north property line as well, all of which to make this both pedestrian-friendly and vehicle-friendly on this particular site. We did receive a number of comments, not as many as I used to see anyway, from staff relative to the site plan, and I'd like to go through them. I believe that the board may have received the response letter, which is dated February 7th from T.Y. Lin. The first is to provide a parking analysis in conformance with the town zoning ordinance. A parking study was provided. It's this document right here, which should have been submitted with the submission or resubmission package, if you will, on the site. What that analysis indicates is that the parking which we are showing is sufficient based upon the peak utilization of the site as studied in terms of the number of cars that may be coming into the site itself. At most, we had 16 cars. We have 15 parking spaces depicted here. We're going to have spaces along that frontage as well. The crosswalk was proposed to be striped. That was one of Jeff's comments. We have added the striped crosswalk area primarily along the northerly boundary, but this is also striped in this area as well. We have moved the air station to the southwest area of the site, and we will depict that fully when we come in with the full site plan. The clearance of the existing canopy will remain the same. There was an issue raised by Jeff Benway asking, does the drive-through constitute a second use on the site? Let me talk about the uses on the site for a second, because we really didn't talk about that for a minute. What is being proposed is currently there are two co-brand users, if you will, within the existing building. There's a Godfather's Pizza, there's a Blimpies located within the building. Also in there are 3 tables of 4 seats each, so there are 12 seats which are located within that building. The 12 seats are going to remain the same. The co-branding is going to change. The primary co-brand on the site is going to be a Burger King Express. We are not adding any, as I said, not adding any internal seats, and these drive-thrus have become very efficient in terms of being to get people in and out. My understanding is this is not going to be a full-service Burger King in terms of menu. It's going to be a limited menu facility. In addition, there is going to be available Dunkin' Donuts in a self-serve type of setting within the store. So we are essentially replacing co-brands with other co-brands on this particular site. A comment that was received from Zach was considering extending the radius of the outer curb to widen the drive-through lane so that people have the ability to safely access the bailout lane or the bypass lane, and we have incorporated that within our site plan. In addition, Mark Valentine had some comments relative to the site plan, requesting adding a stop bar and sign headed south from the Penfield Plaza. We are depicting that on our site plan, and it is shown right in this area on the site plan. Mark comments that a chart should be added detailing the lot coverage and number of parking spaces with the town requirements and the number proposed included. Again, if you've taken a look at the site plan, we did not indicate any marked spaces along here. We will be modifying our plan to include those spaces on the site. Third comment from Mark was that a stop bar and stop sign should be added for all exiting traffic. And we do have that provided right here on the site. So at the point where people are either accessing or coming out through the drive-through lane or through the bypass lane, they will have a stop sign, and they should be aware of cars that are traveling north and south through the Penfair Cross access as depicted. Fourth comment was a break in the curbing or mountable curb would be beneficial in handling snow plowing efforts. That is within the drive-through area, and in fact, a mountable curb is being proposed along the outside radius of the drive-through lane as shown. Signing and stripage should be installed to direct traffic around the outside of the fuel island to queue for the drive-through. This is something that was discussed with staff and something that we will be reinforcing. We have a sign for directional drive-through coming in this direction so that people don't go in this direction, but instead go around from Route 250. And we also will provide for the access and striping coming off of 441. Total number of vendors should be noted. And I will comment, the Burger King is not a vendor in the fullest sense, to the extent that there won't be any there won't be any Dunkin' Donuts coming through the drive-through window. It is only going to be proposed to be the Burger King, for which Hess is the franchisee. Hess actually operates all of the operations within the store. They control everything that's going on relative to what is going on for not only the mart, but also the food vendors. Revised building signage will need to be submitted and reviewed. Additional signage requested will need to be approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Signage will be essentially replacement signage. As we propose, we don't have it with us here tonight, but as proposed, we will be replacing existing panels with new panels, and there won't be any increase in the square footage of signage, which is being proposed either freestanding or on building. Eighth comment talks about stormwater calculations needing to be revised for impervious areas, and a memo summarizing those changes was submitted with regard to it. We're not into the stormwater phase 2 requirements because we're disturbing less than an acre. Comment on the traffic and parking study to be submitted. We have already talked about that and already have submitted that. Proper signage and striping to control traffic through the cross-through lanes has also been provided, and we talked about that. And a dedicated drive-through lane should be striped at the entrance drive, and we have provided that as well. There are comments on the grading plan and utility plan. Suffice it to say, without going into all of those details, we are prepared to conform with all of the comments which came from Jeff Benway on both of those engineering items on grading and utility planning. Basically, what we're talking about is a refinement of the site. The addition of the drive-through itself provides some benefits in reality in dealing with the overall usage of the site. The area behind the site right now is unutilized. This does have a tendency to pull people away from the main portion of the site if they're coming for food vendors as opposed to coming for any other purpose. Our objective is to try to make this as efficient an operation for people who are coming to the site to utilize it for the uses which basically are already there, but we may be changing the actual branding of the products which are coming forward. With that, I don't know if Randy, you have anything to add, or Andy, you want to add at this point? I always bring my posse with me, you know. But I like to say before we open this up, it's a pleasure to be back before the board. I haven't been standing at this podium for quite a while, so I thank you for your attention, and we're prepared to answer any questions that the board may have.
Couple quick questions. Where you're proposing the drive lane to enter the one that goes around behind the canopy, that is where number of service vehicles, garbage trucks, and so forth, the lawn mowing people, always park there. You're going to direct them to another spot?
Well, what we are going to do, and I'll leave that to Randy and Andy to speak, but what we're going to do is give more proper definition to those spots and that use over there. Randy, do you want to?
So what Jerry's referring to, and if you happen to review the traffic study, is what we found out. At the highest number of cars we had parked on the site was 16 spaces. 13 of those were in the spots 3 of those were along here. So what we're suggesting is that we would define these parking spaces along here, and based on the distance, we can get 4 or 5 spaces striped in there, for a parallel space, which, in turn could serve as a spot for the trucks with the landscape trailers, and the service vehicles could also park along there. So, it would provide them ample room.
That's not going to encumber the vehicles trying to get into the gas pumps?
No, and Jerry had mentioned earlier, so we have, from this curb to the actual concrete pad is about 35 feet. If you go to the actual line of the canopy, the fuel islands are under the canopy, there's probably another 8 feet in there. So with that, a parallel parking space 10 feet wide would still leave us 25 feet just to the pad, and then again, we have a little more distance on top of that.
Okay.
We don't expect to stack out there, but at the same time, and I think Randy's point is very, very well taken with regard to providing that striping. Normally, we only have 20 to 25 feet to deal with. Here we have a lot more space than we typically have to deal with for people coming out or coming into the gas pumps in that area. So we are in excess of what we normally see in terms of area available to us, and what we're going to do is mark it and delineate it better.
Can I add a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, though, you're making the assumption, it sounds to me, as though you're not anticipating any additional parkers for the Burger King and the Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
Yeah, the reality is we would think that the parking may actually drop, because now you have a drive-through, so that the people that are coming, that are parking, that are using the vendors there now, are now, in all probability will go, if that's their only purpose for going there, would more than likely go through the drive-through. So we would anticipate that there might actually be some drop in parking. It doesn't change the people coming to get gas. If somebody's coming to get gas, we can't predict whether they're going to get their gas, pull up and park, or whether they're going to get their gas and go through the drive-through. But the study, basically from the existing store in Tarpon, the drive-through usage was about 50%, which we thought might actually be, a little on the low side compared to what we hear. Typically, you might see it at 60. So that's why, we did the parking study to see how many cars we have there, and we think that's really a worst-case scenario.
Randy, I got one question. What about deliveries? Usually, aren't they on the southeast corner of the building? They're going in the side door there, where you got the new drive-through going
Over
through.
here?
Yeah, that's where I've seen them in the past when we've been home.
I'm not.
There's no door there. All the deliveries come in through the front.
Front door.
To the front.
All the deliveries come in through the front entrance.
So where are they going to park the trucks?
They'll park like they do now.
Right in front.
Yeah, they park right out front.
Yeah.
I've got one question. Spring, summer, and fall, that whole front area on Saturdays and Sundays is used by the community for car washes.
Okay.
And all day Saturday, you'll see various Penfield groups out there washing cars. Is that still going to be
You're
happening?
talking along the frontage here.
Yeah, that whole area. In fact, where it starts about where the air pump is and goes all the way around.
Okay.
Down to where
And
you're-
again, looking at the parking study, we're very comfortable with the number of spaces that we have. Our thought was that we would delineate these so that the people are parking there, are parking in an efficient manner, that they're not, we could get, in a worst-case scenario, you could get all the cars parked in there. So if Saturday mornings that those spaces are gone, we're still comfortable that we have enough spaces to serve the customers of the store and to not impact the drive-through.
I know, that is part of your drive-through. That was, right? Isn't that what you said? If you come in off 250,
correct.
that you're
Now,
directing
again,
you're directing the traffic.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll have we're going to have a 10-foot lane, and we're going to have another designated, basically a two-way drive lane in addition to the 10-foot spaces. And then we mentioned we have some additional room there. I mean, that's something that we'll have to look at.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with those operations.
Is it going to be operated by the same manager who's been there for the past?
Yes.
8, 10 years? Okay.
I have a couple questions. With the Burger King, you're going to have probably deep fryers, griddle. I mean, now I assume you've got a pizza oven, and for the subs, probably just a countertop, cold trays. What about the grease and everything that's going to be generated, the odors that are going to be generated with the deep fryers? How is that going to be managed?
They do have an architect that's working on the building plans that would be submitted to the town. As we go through this process, we would be looking at those, what equipment we have, and is that something that we would need to address? Yeah, I mean, if the equipment requires us to have an outside grease trap, then that's something that we're going to have to do. I know that we had I think on the utility plan, we had the sanitary line plotted, and we did the original design, so that's something that we could add into the system if need be.
Because they'll still have to manage the waste oil as well for
Yes.
that. Is the Burger King going to have a counter on the inside where you can go in and order?
Yes.
So they're going to be able to go in or drive through?
Yes, that's correct. And again, the seats that are there today are going to remain with the Burger King. We're just swapping out vendors.
Okay.
We're not.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you this. Your entrance lane to your drive-through is in the pond now, along with a portion of your pad and where the dumpsters are?
Yep.
Okay, now, that mean you have to redesign the pond, or is it?
What we've done is expanded the pond. We actually, we provided a memo that addressed the stormwater. So the size of the pond that actually, the basin stormwater feature that's there today was actually large enough to handle the increase in impervious.
Okay.
So what we're doing is basically changing the shape of that. So you're correct, we're pushing into the embankment here and narrowing the bottom of this. So what we're doing is expanding that up further to the north, providing the same volume that it has today. And our memo that we submitted kind of outlines all that.
Okay. I kind of wondered, the entrance off 441 into the turn lane into the drive-through could be challenging.
You're talking about this
That
movement
one.
here?
Yeah.
The concern being?
It just seems like a really abrupt turn into around the pad into the, I don't know what the widths are and stuff like that, but I'm sure that once you get into the engineering, a little bit finer detail that.
Yeah, so we have a 12-foot drive-through lane, so it's bound by curbs on either side once you get into it. But as you're entering that drive-through lane, again, this would just be a concrete pad. We're showing striping, but this is kind of, there's no restriction, if you will, on that movement.
Now, I go to that Hess practically daily, and have been for 15 years. It does get wild there in the morning with cars in and out, getting gas, getting coffee, grabbing cigarettes, lunches, whatever. I wondered if there was any accounting for any accidents or incidents on site.
There's none that we're aware of. I mean, we took a look at the traffic volumes in the morning peak hour and the evening peak hour. Basically, what we found is when we did this originally, we were using ITE trip generations. The actual count showed us that we were about 17 to 19% less than what those trip generations had predicted. And then with the increase in the drive-through, again, based on the operation that's in Tarpon Springs, Florida, the increase is pretty insignificant based on that actual data. ITE doesn't have a land use code for a gas station, a convenience store, and a food service. So we used the basis of the gas station and C-store, and then combined that with the fast food use, and then took into account the actual usage that we were getting at Tarpon Springs.
But the point I was trying to make, I wondered if Hess had any information.
I just made a note on it. I don't right
No, it's okay.
now,
I understand.
But I will do the research.
Yeah, good deal.
May not be public record, but we may have some.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I think that's about it. I was going to question lighting, but it doesn't make that much difference at this point. I'm sure that you'll have a lighting plan.
Yes.
Relatively unchanged except for some lights.
Right, no, okay. That's all I have. Anybody else on the board? Anyone in the audience? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll close this public hearing. Thank you.